It might surprise us to realize that there's only 3 mentions of the birth of Christ in the New Testament. Luke mentions it, and Matthew mentions it, and Paul alludes to it in one of his letters. But nobody else mentions the birth of Christ in all the books, 27 books of the New Testament. It's also interesting that we have no record of the celebration of Christmas until 325, 300 years after the birth of Christ. So what does that mean? Well, I think it means that the early Christians were concentrating on what was really important, which wasn't the birth of Christ, but the resurrection of Christ. That's why they gathered every 8th day, every what we would call Sunday morning, to celebrate the resurrection of Christ, expecting him to come back at any time soon. And they figured, I think, he's going to come when we're celebrating Mass. But that went on for 300 years until the church began to then think back and to try to recap what the life of Christ was all about. But it's interesting what Luke does. Luke is painting a picture with symbols. He's not giving us a newspaper report of what happened in Bethlehem on a certain day. He's giving us a symbolic explanation of who Christ is. And it's interesting that he has the Christ child come into view laying on the wood of a manger, and at the end of his gospel he has the same adult Christ laying on the wood of the cross. In the beginning of the gospel he has the angels announcing the coming of Christ. At the end of the gospel he has the angel announcing to the women the resurrection of Christ. He does a beautiful job there. But for us, we live not because Christ was born, but because Christ rose again. Life continues for us, that's the hope, the Christian hope, even after death, because of the resurrection of Christ. And this new life is not an event of the past, it's something that has been continuously given to us day by day. We might say the virus of sin and death has been countered by the vaccine of the life of Christ, with which we, Christians, have been inoculated. St. Peter in his epistle says, we have been given a share in the very life of God, which guarantees us unending existence. So we may have gotten a late start in celebrating the Christmas festival, we Christians, but the reality of the birth of Jesus continues in our lives because of the resurrection. And it continues in our lives if we, like the shepherds, believe what has been made known to us. And belief means trust. Trust what we have heard. And if we share the glad tidings, the good news, with the way we live our lives, permitting Christ to continue to live in us, with us, and through us, for the welfare of the world.